Oh my god. Hold on, I know you're probably thinking to yourself, oh, well, what else could I possibly need to know about raiding a compound? It's nowhere near as complicated as stealthing. But you would be wrong. Staying alive and successfully capturing a compound without dying is unarguably difficult for any player, especially if that player is solo. The AI are tuned to a difficulty to where solo raiding is not supposed to be possible. Truth is, nobody is capable of getting a 100% guaranteed solo on any compound. And the odds of you dying are quite high, of course. So in this video, I'll explain tactics so you can minimize your odds of dying. Most of it boils down to being very situationally aware and predicting AI behavior. The first thing you need to plan for when you're raiding a compound is advantageous infill. What that means is driving to an area that is not heavily contested but still gives you a good view of the enemy. If the compound is in stealth mode and there's someone else there, please try to be nice and ask them if you can go loud before breaking their stealth. Just that way you don't piss anyone off. If the compound is not yet in raid mode, like in this example, as soon as stealth is broken, try not to find yourself out in the open where the fresh wave of enemies can catch you off guard. As you can see in this clip, as soon as I break stealth, their numbers jump by about 20. Most of those enemies just walk out of random buildings, and if you're standing out in the open, you're most definitely going to get shot in the back by those fresh wave of enemies. Now we get into the most important but also fairly easy tactics used to avoid getting downed unnecessarily. I'll start with explaining how to avoid becoming vulnerable. Your vulnerability depends on where you are in the compound. A good rule of thumb is to not face your defenses head on unless you have a remote weapon vehicle. My personal strategy is to stick to the outskirts of the compound whenever possible. For example, right here, when I take the right edge of Kazo in this clip, I'm keeping the enemies to my left side mostly. By doing this, when I get shot at, I'm not caught off guard by what direction it's coming from. I already know the entire compound is to my left, and that's the only possible direction I could be receiving fire from. Being situationally aware and keeping account of the enemy's whereabouts truly does go a long way, especially on smaller compounds that are more dense. Next thing that we need to cover is fixed and active defenses. Fixed defenses are things that can't move, like machine guns, mines, and mortars. These are powerful defenses, but also easily avoidable and targetable most of the time. Active defenses, on the other hand, can move. They consist of helis and Humvees, mounted with machine guns and often reinforcements. Let's start off with mines, since those are the easiest to avoid, and here are all of the mine locations across the map. Disclaimer, the next 5 minutes of this video, while important, are going to be extremely boring, so please skip to this time if you have a short attention span. And for fixed machine guns and mortars, here are their respective locations. those are important, so here you go. Here's all the mortar locations in the game. Moving on to the arguably more important active defenses. Most active defenses spawn when stealth is broken and or when the compound's progress bar reaches a checkpoint. We'll start with the reinforcements at Kozlovka. When stealth is broken, no reinforcements come in vehicles, they just spawn out of the doors, but when the progress bar reaches the second checkpoint, we have one gunned Humvee, or armed Humvee I should say, coming in through the main entrance, and one unarmed Humvee coming in through the back entrance. However, once the compound reaches the third progress checkpoint, a big truck spawns with a machine gunner, and a heli with 2 machine gunners spawns over the sea here, and it goes over the VIP building after. Some compounds like Les Delina don't wait for a progress checkpoint to spawn heli reinforcements. It spawns them as soon as stealth is broken. As you can see here, stealth breaks, and you can see the heli coming over the mountain. Typically, when helicopters spawn, they will drop off reinforcements before doing laps around the compound, searching for players to shoot at. Naval is unique in that there is a Humvee that spawns and does laps around the compound along with the helicopter, as you can see here. The best counter for helicopters is shooting it down with an automatic rifle or machine gun. Please note that with most assault rifles, it only takes around 2 to 3 mags to destroy a helicopter. I suggest that you try to listen constantly for helicopters so it doesn't catch you off guard when it flies above you. Me personally, when I arrive to a compound with my own helicopter, I like to turn the engine off so that way when I hear another helicopter, I know it's an enemy, not mine. Another truly critical aspect of raiding is your order of operations. You should prioritize disabling fixed and active defenses first. For example, I shoot down a helicopter and disable mortars first, so that way I am not constantly being bombarded while I'm trying to do objectives. You should note that on Ronograd City, Naval Base, and Fort Ronograd, if you do not complete all of the objectives, enemies will spawn indefinitely. However, it's still important that you disable immediate dangers to make it safer for you to complete those objectives, like mortars, machine guns, and helicopters. The next thing you need to be aware of is chokepoints. These are often located right before an objective and are used as a last line of defense. It's common for there to be only 1 or 2 ways to get to the objective, and both ways will be heavily guarded. You could use brute force and force your way in with a big team or vehicles, but either way, using smokes will turn in the best results. This is the basic reason of why smokes are banned in Bunker. Bunker is basically one massive choke point, and it's easily defeated with smokes. As raiding compounds mostly falls within the role of an assaulter, I'll briefly go over some of the tactics an assaulter should be using when raiding a compound. When shooting at the enemy, they will occasionally duck behind cover, and it may seem that they cannot be hit anymore, but if you fire right above their head 9 times out of 10, it will hit the enemy. This works regardless of how obscure the enemy is or what they hide behind. While it is important to carry specialized equipment like breaching charges and Halligan bars, not everyone needs to be carrying them. I suggest communicating with your group if applicable and pick one person to carry the breaching items. If you're in a public server and you're just playing with the rest of the server, go ahead and assume that someone else will be carrying said items. I say this because a Halligan bar weighs about 5.5 pounds and it's just weighing everyone down for no reason. The Halligan bar can also be unreliable in emergency situations due to its lethargic swinging animations. Similarly, long-range rifles, while useful for taking out snipers and other distant targets, when it comes to destroying helicopters, CQB, and taking out large amounts of OPFOR quickly, snipers will fall short. Consider having only 1 or 2 people on your team with that capability, and traditional assaulters to balance it out. On to reviving people. While it's mostly straightforward, there are a couple things you can do to make it easier. First option is to throw smokes either in the direction of whatever downed your teammate or facing the downed player. This way you don't get downed along with them when you go to revive. You could also just return fire if you know where your teammate got shot from, but do not simply drag your teammate to cover without making sure the coast is clear. If you're going to be doing VIP objectives, you should know some basic CQB in this game. My personal number one rule is heal every piece of damage, find a safe spot and look around corners while you heal. Second, pick hipfire or ADS and stick with it, don't switch between them. ADS animations cost precious time that you can't afford. And third, be ready to switch to your secondary or a knife. Most of the time, if I have the extra mags, I won't even use my primary, because pistols have outstanding damage close range and don't collide as much with walls or enemies. As you can see here, when I'm kicking the door, my gun collides with the door quite significantly, but because I'm able to stay to the back of the room and as far away from the enemies as possible, my gun fits in these spaces alright, but it could be better. As you can see, when I use my pistol, my gun doesn't collide with the door at all, and I can just headshot them piece of cake. I don't even have to worry about my gun hitting anything. Generally, you should also know some long-range basics as well. Firstly, getting used to zeroing your gun or knowing your scope holds. Personally, I'm pretty good with guesstimating how far my target is, and I select my range by pressing the page key so I don't even have to think about bullet drop. If you're going to be using a bipod, please try to find a rock or dirt so that way your scope isn't covered with grass while you're trying to aim, and make sure that you have a place to hide if you start getting overwhelmed. And finally, we get to explosives. When you plant them, there is a very ominous timer that starts at the top left of the screen. Of course, once the timer reaches 0, the explosives blow up. Generally, the more explosives there are, the bigger the explosion range and the damage. You can avoid the explosion by either distance or cover. If you want to be cool, you can just have your feet covered and you'll be safe from the explosion. Note that vehicles do not take damage from planted explosives, but you will still take damage if you're inside the vehicle. Speaking of vehicles and explosives, if you have to, please memorize the mine locations from earlier, and always assume that other people have no clue that the mines exist. I've seen a lot of people in strikers or other cars just drive right over the mines and kill everyone because they either think that they can tank it or they don't know where they're going. With that, that's pretty much the basics of raiding. I'll have more in-depth content coming and the rest of the last podcast sooner or later. I apologize for slow uploads. I have college and a couple other things going on, but I'm doing my best. Join the Discord if you have questions for me or want to be in videos. Thank you for watching.
These guys, not this keg.
Is that me that you're looking at, Taco?
I think so.
How did he know?
No, that's not me. I don't think so.
J, oh my god!
What? There were so many! What a fumble! What do you mean? I would have fumbled.
What is this guy doing?
What is that? He's like,
What is this?
we're gonna get this guy so good.